The forest was quiet that night, too quiet, almost like it was holding its breath. The air was cool, the stars sharp and scattered, and the only sound came from a lonely campfire crackling beside a small green tent. Eli sat on a fallen log, poking at the fire with a stick, humming to himself. He was tired from hiking all day, his shoes caked with dirt and his backpack half open, spilling snacks and a half-read adventure novel. He liked it out here, away from the noise, away from people, away from everything that made him feel small and ordinary. He didn't expect the universe to literally drop something out of the sky for him. The sound came first, a deep rumble like thunder trapped inside metal. Then the night sky tore apart in a streak of silver and blue fire. It wasn't a plane, it wasn't a meteor, it was something else. Eli's heart jumped. The streak cut through the clouds and slammed into the valley below with a blinding flash that lit up the trees like daylight. The ground trembled under his feet and birds exploded out of the branches, shrieking into the dark. "Well," Eli said aloud, half grinning, "guess I'm not getting any sleep tonight." He grabbed his flashlight, threw on his jacket, and started running down the hill. The air smelled like burnt metal and rain. His boots squished in the mud as he stumbled toward the smoke rising through the trees. When he reached the crash site, he froze. A sleek silver pod, no bigger than a small car, lay tilted in a shallow crater. Steam hissed from its vents. The surface shimmered faintly, like it was made of liquid metal trying to remember how to stay solid. Lights pulsed along the seams, glowing soft blue like a heartbeat. Eli's voice came out shaky. "Okay, this is definitely not from NASA." The pod gave a sharp hiss and split open. He jumped back, shielding his eyes as a wave of light poured out. When it dimmed, someone or something stepped out. It was tall, slender, with skin the color of pale sapphire and eyes that shimmered like molten silver. A faint, pearlescent glow traced the lines of its cheekbones, collar, and hands. The creature blinked against the smoke, unsteady on its feet. Don't be afraid of me, human," it said suddenly, voice soft and melodic, though the accent was strange, the words careful and new. Eli blinked, heart racing. You speak English." The alien straightened up, brushing ash from what looked like an iridescent uniform. "Yes, I have downloaded the most common Earth languages, and, memes." Eli just stared. "Memes?" The alien nodded seriously. "Your internet culture is intense, many cats, much chaos." Despite the situation, Eli snorted with laughter. "Yeah, that's accurate." The alien tilted their head, studying him curiously. "You are laughing. Are you not frightened?" Eli took a hesitant step forward. "Should I be?" A flicker of emotion crossed the alien's face, something between surprise and amusement. Most humans would run, or shoot. "Yeah, well," Eli said, scratching the back of his neck, "I forgot my laser gun at home." For a moment, neither spoke. The night seemed to hush again, filled only with the hum of the pod and the soft wind through the trees. Then Eli noticed the alien was trembling slightly. Their silver eyes darted around the forest like they were expecting an attack. "Hey," he said gently, "you okay?" "I do not know." The alien's voice dropped to a whisper. "I did not plan to land here. My vessel malfunctioned. I am stranded." "Well," Eli said, offering a small, crooked smile, "you picked a nice planet to crash on. Great scenery, friendly locals mostly." That made the alien blink, then almost smile. "I am Tirana," they said softly. "Explorer, second class of the Carethian Star Fleet." "Eli," he replied. "Explorer, first class of the middle of nowhere." Tirana tilted her head, considering him again, and this time she did smile, bright and strange and beautiful. The glow along her skin pulsed warmer, like faint starlight responding to laughter. "You are unusual, Eli," she said. "Most beings fear what they do not understand." He shrugged. "Maybe I'm just too tired to be scared." She stared at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly, as if filing that away in her mind. Perhaps, she murmured, humans are more complex than my data suggested. Eli grinned. You have no idea. Above them, the clouds parted, and starlight spilled down across the clearing, lighting her like something out of a dream. Her ship hissed quietly behind her, damaged but alive. Tirana looked up at the stars, then back at him. Eli, she said softly, almost shyly, thank you for not running. He met her gaze, the corner of his mouth curving up. Hey, I've always wanted to meet someone from out of this world. And when she laughed, really laughed, it sounded like music carried by the wind, echoing through the forest. Neither of them knew it yet, but the night that began with a crash would change everything. By the time the moon climbed high above the trees, Eli had convinced Tirana to follow him back to his camp. Her pod still hissed softly behind them, smoke curling into the air like a secret the forest would keep. Tirana walked beside him, her silver eyes darting around curiously, as if every leaf and shadow might whisper a new mystery. She held his flashlight upside down at first until he gently flipped it in her hands. Ah, she said, blinking, Earth tools are primitive but charming. Thanks, Eli replied with a grin. They do the job, usually. When they reached his campfire, the little clearing looked almost magical, orange light flickering across the trees, sparks drifting into the dark like fireflies. Tirana stepped closer, staring into the flames with wide, fascinated eyes. It moves like a living thing, she said softly. Does it bite? Eli chuckled, only if you get too close. She crouched down, watching the fire crackle and hiss. It's beautiful, she whispered. So wild, and yet you control it, you make it stay. That's kind of what we do, Eli said, dropping onto the log. Humans see something dangerous and we try to make friends with it. Tirana tilted her head. That explains cats. Eli laughed so hard he nearly dropped his mug of coffee. She blinked, startled, then smiled, nervous but genuine. Did I say something incorrect? No, he said, grinning. That was perfect. The warmth between them wasn't just from the fire anymore. After a moment, he handed her a marshmallow on a stick. Here, he said, try this. She took it cautiously, sniffed it, then frowned. This is food. Kind of, he said. It's sugar, pure happiness. She held it over the fire, eyes reflecting the orange glow. Why does it swell when heated? Magic, Eli said. She looked at him sharply, clearly unsure if he was joking. He winked. Science magic. When the marshmallow turned golden, she nibbled the edge and froze. Her eyes went wide. Oh, my stars, it's soft chemistry. Eli couldn't help but laugh again. See, told you happiness. Tirana took another bite and her whole expression changed. For a moment, she didn't look like a stranded explorer from a distant world. She looked human. But then her gaze flicked toward the sky. I should not be here, she said quietly. My ship's distress beacon is offline. My fleet will think I'm gone. The humor faded from her voice, replaced by a trembling edge. Eli felt something twist in his chest. We'll fix it, he said gently. Tomorrow I'll help you check the damage. Maybe it's not as bad as it looks. She shook her head. You cannot help me. Your technology, your knowledge, it's too primitive. He raised an eyebrow. You built your ship from glowing space metal. I built a working drone out of old toaster parts. Don't underestimate me. Tirana looked at him again, studying his face, his confident little grin, his muddy boots and tired eyes. And for the first time since she'd crashed, she smiled like she believed him. You are strange, she said softly. I get that a lot. The fire popped, sending a spark into the night sky. For a while they just sat there, quiet except for the wind and the distant call of an owl. The air smelled like smoke and pine and sugar. Tirana shifted the blanket Eli had given her. It looked comically small around her tall, graceful frame. She glanced at him. Your species uses fabric for comfort. Warmth, he said, and modesty. Modesty, she frowned. You mean shame about nudity? I have read of this concept. Fascinating. Eli nearly choked on his coffee. Yeah, it's kind of a cultural thing. Tirana blinked, tilting her head again. Do humans always blush when explaining? He groaned, covering his face. Only when aliens bring up nakedness 10 minutes after meeting us. She giggled, a soft, melodic sound that made him look up again. Your reactions are entertaining. Glad I could amuse the interstellar visitor, he said dryly. But he was smiling. Later, when the fire burned low and the woods grew still again, Tirana leaned forward, her expression thoughtful. You said humans make friends with dangerous things, she murmured. Do you also make friends with lost ones? Eli looked at her, really looked, the shimmer of her skin, the faint sadness in her eyes that no light could hide. He nodded. Yeah, especially those. She didn't answer for a while. Then softly she said, then perhaps I will not be afraid tonight. Eli leaned back, watching the stars. Good, because I think you're safe here. She followed his gaze upward, where the stars shimmered faintly through the clearing. Somewhere among them was her home, her people, her sky. But tonight, sitting by the warmth of a human fire and the laughter of a stranger who didn't run away, she didn't feel so far from home. The night carried on, gentle and unhurried, wrapping them in its quiet rhythm. And though neither of them said it aloud, both felt it. The small, impossible spark that had started in the crash and was now quietly growing between them. Morning arrived soft and golden, the forest bathed in light that filtered through the trees like liquid honey. Birds sang, the air was cool, and the world felt alive again after the chaos of last night. Eli woke to the smell of something burning, not fire but metal. He sat up quickly, rubbing his eyes. Near the crash site, Tirana was already awake, her elegant blue hands busy reconnecting cables from her damaged beacon. Sparks flickered, followed by a sharp crackle. Morning, he called, voice rough from sleep. You know, humans usually have coffee before playing with electricity. Tirana didn't look up. I do not require caffeine, she replied, brow furrowed. I require functionality. He grinned, stretching. Well, I require breakfast. I analyzed your food supply, she said. It is 82% carbohydrates. How have you survived this long? Eli laughed, grabbing a granola bar from his bag. We're a mystery even to ourselves. She turned to face him then, her silver eyes catching the sunlight. For a moment he forgot to breathe. There was something different about her in daylight, less otherworldly and more real. He could see faint freckles of light across her skin, like tiny constellations. You're starring, she said calmly. Just curious, he replied. I've never met anyone who glows before breakfast. Her lips curved slightly. It is not glow, it is bioluminal energy regulation. Sounds fancy. It is, she said, lifting her chin. Not everyone can regulate light efficiently. Eli smirked. Yeah, I burn if I forget sunscreen. She blinked, confused, then gave a soft laugh that made his chest warm. They worked together through the morning, sorting through the damaged parts of the ship. Tirana explained the strange technology in her gentle, patient way, often breaking into excitement when Eli understood. You learn quickly, she said, surprised. Guess I have a good teacher, he said. Her expression softened at that. For a heartbeat, her glow brightened slightly, like starlight reacting to warmth. Then she quickly looked away. Careful, human. Flattery may be a dangerous language among my kind. Dangerous how? He teased. It leads to emotional compromise. Eli grinned. I'll take my chances. Later, when the sun began to sink, they took a break by a stream not far from camp. Tirana knelt beside the water, tracing her fingers over the surface as if memorizing it. Your planet is strange, she murmured. It smells alive. That's good, right? Eli asked, tossing a small pebble into the stream. Yes, she said. It is beautiful, but it's also loud. The stars here whisper differently. He tilted his head. You can hear stars. She nodded. Their radiation carries song. Most species cannot perceive it. You humans, you only see the light. Maybe that's why we look up so much, he said softly. We're trying to hear what we can't. Her gaze lingered on him, curious again, like she was studying something far rarer than any cosmic discovery. You are unlike the records, she said quietly. Humanity is described as reckless, emotional, self-destructive. Yeah, Eli said, smiling faintly. We're all that, but we're also stubborn, hopeful. We build rockets from junk and make art out of pain. We don't give up easily. Tirana's eyes flickered like silver waves. That sounds exhausting. He laughed. It is, but it's living. For a moment she seemed to think about that deeply. Then, almost without realizing, she dipped her hand back into the stream, the ripples catching light from her glowing veins. I have crossed 10 systems and mapped 100 worlds, she said quietly, but none of them have made me feel the way this one does. Eli looked at her. And how's that? Unsteady. He grinned. Welcome to gravity. She laughed, the sound echoing across the water, bright and musical. That night the campfire burned again, smaller this time. Eli showed her constellations, Orion, Cassiopeia, the Big Dipper. She told him the Carethian names for stars he didn't even know existed. When he pointed to one particularly bright star, she whispered, "That one is home." There was a pause. The fire popped softly. "Do you miss it?" he asked. "I don't know," she said. "I thought I would, but now," she hesitated, eyes flicking toward him. "Now I am not certain where home is anymore." He felt something shift inside him then, something quiet but powerful. "Maybe," he said softly, "home's just wherever you feel less alone." Tirana looked at him for a long moment, her gaze unreadable, her glow softening like a heartbeat. "You confuse me, Eli," she said finally. He smiled. "Good, keeps things interesting." She rolled her eyes, but there was warmth in her tone when she murmured, "Perhaps that is why humans survive. You turn confusion into connection." "Exactly," he said, leaning back with a grin. "It's our favorite trick." And as the stars shimmered above them, Tirana couldn't help but think, maybe humans weren't the fragile creatures her data had claimed. Maybe, just maybe, they were something far rarer. Something that made even the stars seem less lonely. The weather turned without warning. One moment the forest was calm and golden beneath the fading light. The next, the wind roared through the trees, carrying dark clouds that swallowed the sky whole. Eli looked up from the pile of wires and blinking panels they'd been working on. "That's not good," he muttered. Tirana's silver eyes flicked toward the horizon, her expression sharpening. "Atmospheric pressure is dropping rapidly. A storm approaches." "You don't say," he said, already gathering tools. "Let's cover the equipment before it." Thunder cracked above them, shaking the ground like an explosion. Fat raindrops splashed down, and in seconds, the entire clearing turned into a swirl of wind and water. Tirana shouted something in her language, a series of melodic, panicked tones, and lunged for the beacon's power core. "It cannot get wet," she cried. "Then let's move it." Eli yelled back, gripping the other end. Together they dragged the heavy, sparking machine toward a makeshift shelter made from branches and a tarp. Lightning flashed, lighting her face for an instant, beautiful and wild, like a storm herself. When another blast of thunder rolled through, she stumbled, her hands slipping on the muddy ground. Eli caught her arm. For a heartbeat, their eyes met, close, breathless, soaked to the skin. "Don't let go," she gasped, trying to steady herself. "Wasn't planning on it." They shoved the core under cover just as a blinding flash struck the pod nearby. The shockwave knocked them both to the ground. The world tilted, sparks flew, and the air filled with the sharp scent of ozone. Eli coughed, blinking through the smoke. The beacon was sparking wildly now, light flickering erratically. Tirana crawled toward it, ignoring the debris. "It's overloading," she shouted. If the containment field collapses, then don't let it collapse, he cut in, grabbing the nearest wire. She stared at him. You do not know what you're doing. He grinned, rain streaming down his face. That's never stopped me before. Lightning flashed again and he yanked a connector into place. The machine whined loudly, then steadied. For a moment, it seemed to work, the beacon's hum growing clear and strong. Then a single spark jumped. Eli, Tirana screamed, and the whole thing exploded in a flash of white. When he came to, the rain had eased to a drizzle. His ears rang, his body ached, and the scent of burnt metal filled the air. The beacon lay twisted and smoking beside him, completely destroyed. Tirana knelt nearby, her hands trembling as she tried to piece together the shattered core. No, 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 she whispered, voice breaking. This cannot be. This was my link, my call home. Eli sat up slowly. Tirana, hey, breathe. She shook her head violently, silver tears mixing with rain. You do not understand. Without the beacon, I cannot contact my fleet. They will think I'm dead. I will be erased from record. Her voice cracked on that last word. She looked lost, like all the stars she knew had gone out. Eli wanted to say something smart, something comforting, but all that came out was, then we'll fix it, again. Her head snapped toward him. You cannot fix what is gone. He met her gaze, his voice softer but steady. You don't know that. I do, she shouted, the glow under her skin flickering like unstable light. You are reckless, foolish. You risked your life for nothing. My world is gone, my mission is lost. What could possibly make that worth it? He stood slowly, mud streaking his hands, his voice quiet but strong. You. She froze. Eli took a breath, his heart pounding. You were worth it. You're not just some mission or record in a ship's log. You're here, alive. And I wasn't about to let the only alien I've ever met or cared about get blown to bits on my watch. Tirana stared at him as thunder rumbled softly in the distance. The storm had quieted, but the air still hummed between them, heavy with something neither could name. You care, she said, almost like she didn't believe it. He smiled faintly, kind of hard not to. Her eyes shimmered again, this time not with anger but something gentler, vulnerable. Slowly she stepped closer, the rain tracing lines of silver light down her skin. You risked everything, she whispered, for me. He shrugged, trying to hide how much his heart was racing. Guess that's what humans do. We make bad decisions for good reasons. She gave a small, breathless laugh, half disbelief, half wonder. You are impossible. Yeah, he said softly, that's sort of our thing. For a long time they just stood there, surrounded by broken metal and wet earth, their breaths mingling in the cool air. The storm had passed, but something else had begun, quiet, dangerous, and beautiful. When Tirana finally looked up at the dark sky, her voice was barely a whisper. My world may never find me again. Eli looked at her with a small, hopeful smile. Then maybe, he said, it's time to start your own. She turned toward him, and for the first time since she'd fallen from the stars, she smiled, really smiled. And for that one fleeting moment, the wreckage, the rain, the ruin, none of it mattered. Only the spark between them did. The storm left the forest in silence. The air was damp, heavy with the smell of rain and smoke. Broken branches littered the ground, and the beacon lay in ruins, silent, dark, and lifeless. For the first time since she crashed, Tirana didn't move. She sat in the mud, knees drawn close, her glowing hands dimmed to a faint pulse. Her expression was distant, unreadable, like she wasn't really there. Eli crouched beside her, soaked, muddy, and exhausted. Hey, he said softly, we'll figure something out. She didn't look at him. There is nothing left to figure out, she whispered. My link is gone. My mission is a failure. I am nothing now. Don't say that. It is true. She turned her face toward him, silver eyes sharp with pain. In my world, to fail means to be erased from record, as if you never existed. every moment, every word forgotten. Eli frowned. That's messed up. It is order, she said, her voice trembling. Perfection demands no weakness. Emotion, hesitation, loss, they are considered corruption. He shook his head, sitting beside her. You know what humans call that, being alive. Tirana's lips parted slightly, her eyes softening. You speak as though weakness is virtue. He chuckled quietly. Not virtue, just part of the deal. Rain dripped from the trees around them. The fire they'd built earlier was gone, leaving only smoke and damp ash. Eli looked at the mess of wires and tools strewn around, then back at her. You know, he said, humans break things all the time. The trick isn't avoiding mistakes, it's what we do after. Tirana tilted her head slightly. And what do you do? He smiled faintly. We fix them, or we make something new out of the pieces. She blinked, watching as he stood up and began collecting bits of the beacon. You cannot rebuild this with primitive materials, she said. It would take weeks, maybe months. Good thing I've got nothing better to do, he said, wiping mud from a circuit board. Eli, she said gently, why do you keep trying? He looked over his shoulder at her, eyes bright with that stubborn warmth she'd come to recognize. Because that's what we do. We mess up, try again, and usually make things worse. But sometimes, he smiled at her, sometimes we surprise even ourselves. She stared at him for a moment before sighing softly. You are exhausting. Thank you, he said, grinning. It's one of our defining traits. By afternoon, the storm had cleared. Sunlight broke through the leaves, painting the forest in gold. Eli worked tirelessly, piecing wires and metal scraps together with duct tape, copper, and sheer optimism. Tirana watched him, arms crossed, her usual confidence replaced with quiet confusion. You are building nonsense, she said. Improvisation, he corrected. It's how we make magic without knowing how it works. She walked closer, crouching beside him. Your methods are illogical. Yeah, but sometimes illogical works, he said, adjusting a coil. Tirana's lips twitched. That sounds like something a philosopher would say. Nah, Eli said with a wink. Just an engineer with no manual. She shook her head, but there was laughter hiding behind her sigh. You truly believe this? Chaos will fix what's broken. He looked up, meeting her gaze. No, but maybe it'll help you believe it can be fixed. That made her pause. For a long moment she didn't speak. Then softly she said, You make things complicated. Maybe that's our superpower, he replied. She smiled faintly, small, shy, but real. That night the forest was calm again. A small fire crackled beside them, and the stars peeked through a gap in the clouds. Tirana sat closer than usual, her knees drawn to her chest, the glow beneath her skin returning softly. I was taught that emotion weakens purpose, she said quietly. But when I felt lost today, you reminded me of something. Eli looked up from the fire. What's that? That purpose is not built by perfection, she said. It's built by hope. He smiled. Now you sound human. She laughed, a soft musical sound that made his chest feel lighter. Perhaps your chaos is contagious. I hope so, he said. For a while neither spoke. The flames danced and the night seemed to hum with quiet peace. Then after a moment she said, Eli, what happens if we never fix the beacon? He looked at her, the firelight reflecting in his eyes. Then I guess we make our own way home. Tirana's gaze lingered on him, warm, steady, curious. Your way, she murmured, is so uncertain, yet it feels alive. Welcome to the human condition, he said with a grin. Her laughter came again, and this time it stayed with the wind. And though the beacon remained dark, a different light had started between them, one born not of circuits or science, but of something older, something unexplainable. Something human. The morning came bright and quiet after days of storm and smoke. The forest seemed cleaner, alive again. Dew shimmered on every leaf, and sunlight spilled through the gaps in the trees like liquid gold. Eli stretched and yawned beside the dying campfire, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. He expected to hear the usual sound of Tirana humming softly to herself while working on her strange alien devices. But when he looked toward the crash site, something was different. The pod, the one he thought was beyond saving, was glowing. He froze. No way. Tirana stood beside it, hair damp with mist, her hands tracing glowing runes across the ship's hull. Sparks of blue energy jumped between her fingers and the metal, humming like a heartbeat. "Morning," Eli called, stepping closer. "Please tell me that's not another self-destruct test." She turned to him, eyes bright with hope. "It's the opposite. The ship's auxiliary core reactivated overnight. The storm recharged the main capacitor." He blinked. "So it's alive." "Yes," she said, smiling, really smiling this time, light spilling through her skin. "The beacon signal is restored. My fleet will receive it soon." Eli's heart twisted. "That's good news," he said quietly, though it didn't sound like it. She noticed the drop in his voice. Her smile faded slightly. "Eli, this means I can go home." He nodded, looking away. "Yes, home." The word hung between them like smoke. All day, Tirana prepared her ship for departure. Eli helped, even though every tool he handed her felt heavier than it should. They worked mostly in silence, the hum of alien machinery filling the air. At one point, Tirana looked at him and said softly, "You seem quieter today." He forced a smile, "Just thinking." "About what?" He shrugged. "About how weird it's gonna be not having a glowing space girl stealing my marshmallows anymore." Her lips curved faintly. "You exaggerate. I did not steal. I conducted taste analysis." Eli chuckled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Right, taste analysis. You'll have to report that to your fleet, huh?" Her smile faltered. "They will not understand." "Then don't tell them," he said. She hesitated, looking down at her hands. "If I return, they will erase the memory of this mission. Everything I have felt, learned, or known about you, it will all vanish. It is protocol." He stared at her. "You're serious?" She nodded slowly. "They will remove all emotional contamination from my data." Eli took a step closer, voice low. "That's not contamination, Tirana. That's life." Her eyes shimmered. "For my kind, emotion is chaos. We are built to observe, not to feel." He shook his head. "Then maybe you were built wrong." She stared at him, hurt, surprised, moved all at once. "And you," she whispered, "maybe you were built too fragile." He laughed softly. "Probably, but somehow we keep surviving." By sunset, the pod was ready. The soft hum had turned into a steady, rising vibration. The ship's lights pulsed brighter, casting silver reflections across the clearing. Tirana stood by the entrance, her hair glowing faintly in the dying light. "They will arrive soon," she said. "Once they do, this area will be erased for security." Eli's throat tightened. "Erased?" "Yes, no traces, no evidence of contact." He forced a grin. "Guess that includes me." Her voice caught. "I do not want that." "Then don't let them." "I cannot stop them," she said, almost pleading. "Eli, my world is not like yours. We cannot defy orders. To defy means exile, and exile means—" He stepped forward, cutting her off gently. "Freedom." She blinked. "You do not understand." "Maybe not," he said softly. "But I do know this. You don't have to go back just because they expect you to." For a long moment she said nothing. Her eyes searched his face, trembling with something raw and uncertain. "You make everything so difficult," she whispered. "Yeah," he said, smiling weakly. "It's my best quality." The wind stirred between them, carrying the faint sound of distant thunder. Above, the sky was clear, but the horizon shimmered with the light of approaching ships, tiny stars moving against the natural ones. "They are close," she said. He nodded, trying to smile. "Then I guess this is goodbye." Tirana's breath trembled. Eli, don't be afraid of me. He met her gaze, his voice soft but steady. I never was. She hesitated, then stepped closer until the air between them felt charged, like the edge of lightning before it strikes. Then what are you afraid of? She whispered. He looked at her, the alien glow in her skin, the tears she didn't quite understand, the impossible warmth between them. Losing something I didn't know I needed. Her breath caught. For a heartbeat, she said nothing. Then slowly she reached out, her glowing fingers brushing his cheek. The touch was cool, electric, and heartbreakingly gentle. You will not be forgotten, she said softly, though her voice broke on the words. The wind rose again as the ships approached, their lights growing brighter, washing everything in silver and blue. Eli smiled faintly, even as his heart twisted. Promise. She looked at him one last time, eyes filled with something her people didn't have a word for, and whispered, I promise. And as the ship's light engulfed them both, Eli realized something. The universe wasn't made of stars and distance. It was made of moments like this. Moments that felt eternal, even when they were ending. The clearing was bright with light, pure, white, and blinding. The air hummed like music, trembling with the sound of arrival. Eli shielded his eyes as the forest swayed under a wave of pressure. Then just as suddenly it stopped. Silence fell, deep and sharp, as though the world itself was holding still. When Eli opened his eyes, the clearing was empty. The air shimmered faintly where Tirana had stood only moments ago, and the last echo of her voice seemed to linger. Don't forget me, human. He whispered to the empty space, not a chance. But the light was gone. The days that followed felt strange, too quiet. The forest, once alive with her laughter and the hum of alien energy, now seemed hollow. Eli still caught himself glancing toward the crash site every morning, expecting to see her crouched over the wreckage, her silver eyes bright with focus. Instead, there was only the shell of the pod, cold, silent, half buried in the earth. He spent the next few days cleaning up what was left, mostly to keep himself busy. It was easier to fix broken things than to think about the emptiness she left behind. Sometimes at night, he would sit by the fire and talk into the dark, as if she could still hear him. You'd probably call this emotional contamination, he'd say with a smile. Humans do that, we feel too much. He'd look up at the stars and add softly, hope your fleet treats you better than you expect. But even as he said it, he wondered if she was thinking of him too, or if her memories had already been erased like she'd feared. Weeks passed. Then one night, while Eli sat beside the quiet ashes of his campfire, something flickered in the sky. At first he thought it was a shooting star, until it stopped. A small blue light hovered just above the treetops. It shimmered once, twice, then began to descend. The ground vibrated slightly, and Eli stood, heart racing. Tirana, he whispered. The light grew brighter until it formed a shape, a small, silver sphere no larger than a baseball. It floated toward him and unfolded like a flower, projecting a soft beam of light into the air. A familiar voice echoed through the night. Eli. His breath caught. Tirana. The hologram flickered, and there she was, standing in a glow of pale blue, her smile both familiar and new. Her eyes were softer, warmer. If you are seeing this, she said gently, it means I have broken protocol. Eli couldn't help but laugh through the lump in his throat. Of course you did. She continued, her voice trembling slightly. I remembered. They tried to erase it, all of it, but your name, it stayed. He took a step closer, his hand brushing through the light as if he could touch her. You remembered. I could not forget, she said, her tone soft as starlight. You taught me what my kind never understood, that imperfection is not a flaw, it is beauty, that chaos is not weakness, it is life. Her image flickered. I am far away now, but I wanted to see your world one last time. Eli smiled faintly, eyes wet. It misses you. I miss it too, she whispered. I miss you. The hologram pulsed brighter for a moment, almost like her heartbeat. Do not be afraid of what you feel, Eli. Do not hide from it. That is how humans shine. He swallowed hard, trying to speak. Tirana, will I ever see you again? For a moment she only looked at him, eyes full of light and longing. Then she said softly, you already do. The hologram shimmered once more, and the light scattered into the night, fading like dust on the wind. Eli stood there for a long time, staring at the spot where she'd been. The forest seemed alive again, glowing faintly under the moonlight. He let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding, his heart full and aching. Goodbye, Tirana, he whispered, or maybe see you later. Somewhere far above the clouds, a faint streak of light flashed across the sky, bright, fast, and beautiful. Eli smiled. That's more like it. He sat down by the fire again, the warmth flickering across his face. He looked up at the stars, the same ones she once taught him to see differently, and felt something shift deep inside him. Maybe she was right. Maybe humans did shine brightest when they felt too much, when they cared too deeply. Maybe that was their strange, beautiful power. And though the night was silent again, Eli swore he heard her voice in the wind, soft and playful as ever. Don't be afraid of me, human. He grinned into the darkness, his chest full of light. I never was, he whispered. Then he leaned back, staring at the endless sky, wide, wild, and full of possibility. And for the first time since she left, Eli didn't feel alone. Because somewhere out there among the stars, someone remembered too.